So welcome to the Well Actually podcast. Thank you for listening. As usual, you can get the Well Actually podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. The Well Actually podcast is also available on YouTube in case you're interested in videos. And both the audio and video of the podcast are available on thewellactuallypod.com. As usual, we're going to do the Game of Thrones recap at the end of the podcast. So don't worry, there's going to be a very obvious intro to that. So you know, in case you haven't caught up yet and you might want to skip that, that's fine. So I want to start today's episode by giving a quick shout out to the Uber and Lyft drivers who went on strike yesterday, trying to get better wages and other benefits. So the companies have basically been steadily reducing the pays of the drivers in order to make it more attractive to investors, because Uber is set to go public on Friday, and it's one of those things where, you know, saying when elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And I just wanted them to, you know, just give them a shout out, because it's not easy, because, hey man, the whole capitalist machine, it runs on the lifeblood of hardworking people, and they aren't necessarily the ones that reap all the benefits. And in that vein, I wanted to move on to this clip that's probably been circulating for a while, and it has to do with your man Steve Harvey. So he had this, I guess this clip from a segment of his show, of his talk show, and it's a motivated segment, it's called. But the funny thing about this clip is that the episode itself came out October of last year, but I guess it's just making the rounds now. But you know how things happen on social media. And you know what? Well, the premise of the whole video is rich people don't sleep, or they don't sleep 8 hours. And, you know, I'll just let you hear it for yourself. He started sounding like real preacherific at some points, like quoting Bible verses and all. And it reinforces this myth that the hardest working people are the most successful. And anyone in the real world, or anyone with eyes, can tell you that that's utter nonsense, that there are so many hardworking people who go from one job to the other and they are barely getting by. So this whole thing of, yeah, if you're not successful, you're just not working hard enough is utter BS. But anyway, I wanted to approach this from two angles, because I don't want to get stuck on this. But the key to amassing wealth isn't 4 hours of sleep. It isn't even extraordinary intelligence. No, it's wealth. Yeah, that's right, wealth. Being able to overcome financial barriers of entry. It not only puts you ahead of the game, it puts you on like another playing field completely. And that's like getting that degree without having a dime in student loans, or being able to afford like these prestigious graduate programs, which like will open doors for you that appear to be walls to other people. Or it might even be like getting a small loan to start a business of yours. And I feel like this is just a disservice to anyone who might be going from one job to another, plus an internship, plus school, and you're trying to tell that person that, oh yeah, the reason why you're not successful is because of sleep. But overall, the thing is, he had like a larger point where he's talking about being successful as stepping out of your comfort zone. And that I agree with, because there rarely is growth within comfortable circumstances. But anyway, so other things, like the thing about these wealthy people themselves is they hire people to do all this work so that they actually get to sleep. So it's not a matter of, oh, they're wealthy because they didn't sleep. No, that's BS, Steve. But anyway, I'm sure like the whole "I'll sleep when I die" crew, they were like they were all riled up because of this. Like, they feel vindicated because, you know, the ones that were like, oh, while y'all was sleeping, I was out getting this bread. Yeah, okay, Baker, good job. It just means you work overnight, but whatever. So, and if you had just left it at don't love sleep, like, I think anyone can get behind that. Like, sloth is, however you want to put it, is not like a good quality. But going against what is actually like scientifically, like, you know, like no other way to put it, but prescribed. And I guess if you want to go against science, that's on you. Like, sure, don't even get vaccinated either. That's your problem. But it's, in a way, it's dangerous. I'll put it that way. And Steve, he knows he's talking to a majority Black audience. And the prevalence of hypertension among Black Americans is among the highest in the world, not just in America, in the world. And there's also the chance of developing high blood pressure earlier than others. So not only are you like more prone to getting high blood pressure, but it even starts with you earlier. And now, like, if you want even to get into the like actual health benefits of getting 8 hours of sleep, like, they are numerous. Like, heart health, preventing cancer, reducing inflammation. It even assists in weight loss or reducing the risk of depression. And just as an added bonus, like, parts of your body actually repair while you sleep. But that's, according to Steve, nah, you got to do your 2 hours and be up before people on the East Coast are up. I don't know, maybe doing like daylight savings. I don't know. And then when it even comes to like being the diligent little worker that Steve wants you to be, getting sufficient sleep is actually linked to increased alertness and improved memory. So I don't even know what he's trying to tell you to do, but honestly, a wise man once said, whatever Steve Harvey says, do the exact opposite. All right, we're going to take a short break here and we'll be right back. So I wanted to get into the Met Gala real quick because it just seems so interesting to watch and see how people reacted to it. So, well, if there's anything I learned from Ocean's 8 is that the Met Gala is held on the first Monday in May every year. And this year, the tickets went for around $35,000 to $50,000. Yeah, for one ticket. Anyway, so this year's theme was Camp Notes in Fashion. So I asked some people, like, what does that mean? Because I wasn't really sure if people were going to dress up like Boy Scouts or like camping gear or whatever. And you know when you've asked someone who clearly doesn't know what they're talking about, and you're like, so what's camp? And like, you know, camp. You know now, camp. I'm like, no, camp is camp. Yeah, okay, thanks a lot. Yeah. So I eventually did what I should have done from the beginning, and I checked Google. And I found something that even one of the contributors to the Met Gala said. And it said, camp can be described as style without content. Okay. So I kept looking. And another definition was the unique ability of combining high art and pop culture. Another one said love of the unnatural, of artifice and exaggeration. And yet another one said failed seriousness. And so all that, I said, what the hell? Like, what am I supposed to do with all that? Like, not like, so even till tomorrow, I still will have no idea what camp means. And I'm probably more confused than I was when I started. But anyway, to the ball, the show, the red carpet itself, is some of the outfits, okay, so I'll call it costumes. Some of them were just, I'll say they were ambitious, yeah. Like, and the thing is, all I remember is like somebody looked like a chandelier, another one looked like a picture frame, and Cardi looked like someone's time of the month. That's how I can put it. It was a lot of red, a lot of very deep red, like wavy red, and yeah, it was a lot, and it was already clear to me at that point that I'm not their target audience, not in interest and definitely not in tax bracket. And besides, like, neither Beyonce nor Rihanna were there. So did the Met Gala even really happen? So we're going to move on to something else that recently happened. And okay, so this one, I started to talk about it on Twitter a little bit, and then I was like, okay, no, this is the reason why I have a podcast, because going back and forth with someone like with that within a written medium is like, okay, you're going to say something, I'm going to say something, and then I'm going to lose my train of thought because I'm responding to what you're saying. And then next thing, my thoughts all look like jumbled and out of focus or whatever. So there's this show called The Red Table Talk, and it's a talk show hosted by 3 generations of the Pinkett Smith women, Jada, Willow, and Jada's mother, Adrienne. And an episode came out on Monday, so a trailer was put out to promote it. And I guess in this era of like short attention span, ADD consumption, like a good trailer is more important than ever, because it helps make up your mind whether you're going to commit to the entire program or not. And in this instance, people not only knew whether they were going to see the whole thing, or like they not only knew they were going to see the whole thing, but they realized like they had fully formed opinions on Ayesha Curry, and that leads us to where we are now. So and that's a big if you want to see the entire 28 episode. God, what am I doing? Ew, that is just ugly from. Entire program or not. In this instance, people not only knew that they didn't need to see anymore. And in this instance, people not only knew that they didn't need to see any more than the 50-second clip that was circulating, but they also had fully formed opinions on Ayesha Curry, and that leads us to where we are right now. So and that's a big if, you actually wanted to see the entire 28-minute episode, which already has over 4 million views in 3 days, you don't have to go on some site that requires a monthly subscription like Netflix, or a channel like TNT or BET that requires cable. No, you can just go on a little site I like to call Facebook. You know, that one with like over 2 billion active users, and you can see it there for free. But anyway, to the specifics of the episode, the Red Table Talk sat down with the Curry women. So that's Steph's mom, her youngest daughter, that's Steph's youngest sister, the daughter of Doc Rivers, who's an NBA coach, and the fiance of Seth Curry, and of course Steph's wife, Ayesha. So the segment itself began with Jada asking how all the women deal with other women pushing up on their very famous husbands. And Sonia, that's Steph's mom, said that she actually liked it to a point, because it's like, okay, you're getting like a cosign on how attractive you find your man. Like someone else finds him attractive, but then of course, when it goes over the line, then she will not hesitate to step in. And then after a while, the conversation meanders for a bit, and then it comes back to Ayesha, and she says, well, you know, I'll just let you hear for yourself. So the reaction to this clip has been very telling on a number of fronts, and I'd like to get into them real quick. So the biggest thing, internet conversations are very heavy on the hypocrisy and light on nuance. So everybody's perfect. Nobody deals in shades of gray. Everything must be absolute. Even in the clip, you can hear that she admits that it's an insecurity, and she even calls it weird herself. So it's like, you already know what that's supposed to mean. Like, in terms of insecurities, like they may seem irrational to an outside observer. Like, oh, you have all this going for you, then why is that such a big deal? And I mean, if we judge everyone else by what they actually do instead of what they say, then a lot of you are looking real funny in the light. But you know what? I'm not going to stay and spend much time on that part. Then you could actually tell that there were so many people who just didn't like her and they were just waiting to pounce on her. Like, and the excuse that, oh, because she was shaming women when she said she leans towards, and I put this in air quotes, modesty. It's funny how you're letting someone whose opinion you don't think matters at all weigh so heavily on you. And it's like, if she was advocating for falling asleep with like her man's meat in her mouth like a thermometer, you guys be like, yes. But yeah, like Cardi does that too, and you guys are sick of her too. So it's kind of like y'all just want somebody to be mad at. So like, what exactly is your problem? Like, for real, like, let us know how you really feel. But anyway, I also wanted to look at what people are terming like this attention-seeking portion of it. And to a degree, that's accurate. Like, who doesn't want attention? Like, but she even goes out of her way to add on to it. Like, oh yeah, it's not like she wants anything to come of it, but it's nice to know that people are looking. And he who is without sin cast the first stone, because that attention-seeking thing must be going around, because y'all ain't on like IG because of the aesthetic or because your pictures are so popping or whatever. Like, yeah, you've seen one bowl of rice, you've seen them all. Like, what are you doing on there? What do you think that all boils down to? Like, it's very clear there. Like, she's not the only one. And what is also clear is like, some of y'all make it seem like you can't handle attention without acting on it. Like, once you get a compliment, yup, okay, that's an invitation to an orgy. I'm like, no, chill. They just said you look nice. That's it. So like, the way y'all are responding to it is like, every time someone pays you a compliment or just says something nice to you, you think it's a marriage proposal, or you think it's some sort of infidelity. I'm like, chill, just chill a little bit. Like, you may be walking down the street looking like a damn tuna fish and someone will say something nice to you, and now you're walking down like a happy tuna fish. Like, that's it. Like, it's nothing more to it. And the fact is, when she probably, like, her experience in this realm is probably she goes somewhere with Steph and all of the eyes are on him. And it could be 80 people and she can tell like 70 of the women are ready and willing to risk it all. And you being right there with him, and not only is that thirst being put in your face, but no desire is being thrown your way. Like, I know we might all say we'd be okay with everything that's going on, but man, unless you're actually in that situation, I don't think you know how you'd respond to it. And then the final thing I wanted to get in on that was, the public can't be and shouldn't be trusted with vulnerability. Like, oh my God, and God forbid is the vulnerability of a rich or famous person. Just forget it. Like, it could be professional athletes speaking up on like their bouts with anxiety, or that's another topic that was actually discussed in the Red Table Talk, but no, you're just stuck on her insecurity. Or it could even be a hulking Hollywood actor talking about being groped by a Hollywood exec, and then he's being ridiculed because he didn't go all apeshit and start punching people. And all of these are somehow met with ridicule at first, and I'm sure they anticipated to an extent, but they probably thought like there would be some level of humanity being met with what they said, like, because these are things that a lot of people can relate to, and I know we're all just gonna try and look tough for the public and like, oh yeah, no, that's your personal thing, you should be able to deal with that. And man, unless it's something that's like really like unanimously sad, like losing a spouse or a child, people usually find a way to turn it around, and maybe that's just like society becoming less empathetic, but yeah, it just makes some of y'all look real funny. All right, so we'll take a quick break here and then we'll be right back. So before I get into the Game of Thrones recap, I wanted to give some quick not really recommendations, I'll call them more reminders. Some TV shows that were on network TV before are now the properties of Netflix, and they're releasing new seasons. So a show called Lucifer recently had season 4 debut yesterday, so that's Wednesday, and the entire season 4 is available on Netflix. And another show, Designated Survivor, is going to be coming back on June 7th, and it shows President Kirkman actually like running for re-election this time. And again, that's on June 7th. So if you're looking for, I guess, some other shows to watch once Game of Thrones is over, you can check those out. So now, as I said, this is where we get into the Game of Thrones recap. And if you haven't seen episode 4, you might want to stop watching now. But of course, you can always subscribe to the Well Actually podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube as well if you're interested. So there are a couple like central themes to the episode that I want to touch on, and then some like specific like scenes. I actually didn't see the infamous Starbucks cup, and maybe my TV is one of those TVs the cinematographer was saying weren't tuned properly. I mean, just because I didn't watch it live, so HBO had probably scrubbed it by the time I saw it, and I saw it twice, and I tried, and I didn't see a Starbucks cup, but I believe you guys. And I wonder who else noticed that John got some bass in his voice all of a sudden. Like, has he been like watching inspirational YouTube videos on how to sound like a leader? But yeah, and then the feast itself, well, after they did like the whole funeral procession with all the burning of the bodies and all that, and Daenerys finally giving homeboy a little bit of love after he died, but whatever. So at the feast, Daenerys made Gendry Lord of Storm's End, and so that struck me as some sort of like power play where she's trying to like align herself with him, maybe in case she requires some sort of loyalty later on. But that's what stuck out to me. And then of course throughout the scene, like in the hall, she had hella nonverbal cues. Like her face was so expressive. Like she went from like pleased to disturbed to jealous to angry, and you could kind of see the gears turning in her head, like about how things might play out because of how people were taking to Jon. And of course, Bran is still saying weird shit like, I don't really want anymore. And you shouldn't envy me. I live mostly in the past. Like, bro, what? Like, bro, just say congratulations and roll away, man. Like, what is going on with you? But yeah, then the wildlings, they were wilding. Like, they were getting it in, and the women up there were like, they were about that life, and they wanted to make sure the wildlings knew it. And I pity their organs, I guess is the only way I can put that. And another thing that just stood out was Sansa stay peeping everything. Like, well, you might think you did something slick, but she peeps everything. Like, whether she's in the middle of 4 conversations and you're half a mile, she's gonna peep it. Like, so that you got to be ready for her. And then after Gendry got his like position or whatever, he went and proposed quick as hell. Like, and you thought Nijadu's on Facebook move quick. No, he was trying to make an honest woman out of Arya. But it's like he hasn't heard the saying, you can't turn an assassin into a housewife. Like, it doesn't work like that. And then speaking of rushing into things, like, is it just me, or has the entire season felt a bit rushed? Like they're desperately trying to cram everything into 6 episodes, and there are so many things that it feels like they've been cut out, and they probably have like even more significance if they allow the viewers to see the reactions. Like, I can understand like them wanting the long night to be a really long episode in order to capture like the entire Battle of Winterfell, but I definitely feel like the Night King should have gotten at least like more than one episode of action. Like, he deserved that. And all of a sudden, the journeys aren't taking as long as they normally would. Like the Seven Kingdoms got Uber now or something. Like, everyone's just saying, okay, we're going to be there, and then they show up there automatically. I mean, it feels like nitpicking because it's such a great show, but that you're held to a higher standard as a great show. And then we didn't even get to witness the reaction of Sansa and Arya after being told about Jon. I'm sure they would have very, very different reactions, but we were robbed of that, like that whole scene. And nothing, nobody in this show can keep a damn secret. Like, immediately they found out, it's like, and they just send like a broadcast message to everyone else, and it's like, bro, somebody kept this secret until he was beheaded, and yet you're out here like just spewing it to everyone. But you know what, whatever. And then it just felt mean when Jon didn't even get to say goodbye to Ghost, like, and then the producer's like, oh, it was because of CGI constraints. So Jon just walked and gave him a little head nod and kept it pushing. Like, bro, we just saw Jon riding a damn dragon into a blizzard, and you're telling me he couldn't go pat Direwolf on the head. But you know what? It's whatever. Like, I'm over that. Like, okay. And another thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way is how Jaime and Brienne turned out. It's like there was something very pure about their relationship. It was friendship, it was like mutual survival, and it was respect. And then that emotional moment of him knighting her, that sort of like put a bow on anything. Like, it felt like that was the pinnacle of their relationship. And to me, it should have been. And it kind of got sour for me, but it's like, at least, you know, like, even in Winterfell, like, never have I ever always get sexual, no matter what happens. And, you know, sex makes people do crazy things. Like, even her reaction was warranted, because, like, even after all this, you're still riding back to your sister or whatever. And I don't know, maybe they're trying to manufacture some more drama there, even though it's like all of that could have still been accomplished without them having to have done that, but whatever. And it's apparent that the Targaryens are the worst in the history of military strategy and engagement. It's like, it's gotten to the point where it feels like the writers are now like, they've opted more for drama instead of common sense. Like, how does an entire fleet of ships sneak up on a dragon that's in the air? Like, seriously, like, if anything, like, the dragon would be the one that would have the perfect advantage or whatever, but you know what? And don't even get me started on the retreat. Like, did Daenerys not realize, like, she could literally fly around and attack them from behind? I don't know how that sounded, but like, does she think like ships have power steering? Like, and then of course her fleet gets decimated. And another casualty of this time crunch is we didn't even get to see Missandei get taken. So we're just going by Grey Worm's reaction on the beach, and man, it was, I don't know. Because these are still really good moments, but I feel like we're being robbed of some really essential portions of the show. But anyway, when we actually see the final confrontation and they ask her if she has any last words, I honestly thought they were just going to push her and let that be that. Like, but beheading her was kind of overkill. Like, they were really trying to make people upset by the end of that episode, and it worked. And of course, yeah, Grey Worm is about to go full John Wick. And so now I guess it really gets you going in terms of how they want you to be ready for the next episode. And I believe it's going to work out that way. So yeah, there are only 2 episodes left, just 2 episodes, and that's the end of Game of Thrones. I mean, not counting the numerous spin-offs or prequels that they're coming out with. But yeah, it's gonna be something special. At least I hope. I don't want to sound like I'm just bashing the show entirely because I've enjoyed it, but I feel like the enjoyment could have been a bit more. But anyway, yes, this is the end of this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us. Please subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. And also subscribe on the YouTube page because videos of the podcast will be available on there very soon. And if you don't have any of those streaming services, you can listen to the podcast directly from thewellactuallypod.com. And the audio plays in the background of your phone while you're using other apps. So it's not something that requires you to be on the page constantly. So again, we're going to try and do this again next week. All right, take care.